I will talk to you about Employee Central, platform, reporting, and onboarding.
And I'm Melanie, and I will guide you through the highlights of recruiting, performance and goals, and learning.
So let's start with the newest release. In the end of the year, we will have a second release. You can already see the dates, so mark them in your calendar so you don't miss that release. As you can see, we have a lot of content to cover, so let's get started with platform and reporting. First of all, a remark about artificial intelligence. It's a lot in the news lately, and also SAP has worked a lot on AI in SuccessFactors. We have 3 types of AI. It's available in platform because it's cross-module, but we will go more into depth in the module-specific scenarios. First, we have deep learning. That is actually content that is already there, that is analyzed to give you personal recommendation, etc. We also have generative AI, where the AI will actually create new content based upon questions that you asked or content that you already provided to the AI bot. And then, of course, we have Joule, the chatbot, which can help employees with the transactional experience, where employees can ask questions, and then the bot will help them request a leave, for instance. The AI in SuccessFactors is divided into 2 tiers. We have the base AI functionality, which is included in the license, and then you have the premium capabilities, which have a separate license model. Of course, as in every release, we also have now visual changes. These are not functional changes, so the way of working remains the same. But for instance, the horizon theming is now more widespread in SuccessFactors, so the end user experience is more consistent than before. As you can see here, sometimes they also replaced icons by text labels, for instance, or the styling has been updated so it looks more modern. The new feature of the new people profile is probably one of the most visible changes in this release, because if you open up a profile of a person, this is the first one that you can see. And that is at the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the new pop-up with a summary of information. If you click on the Show Spotlight button, it will open up the Spotlight, which displays a summary overview of tiles. And of course, on the Spotlight, you can also go through the full profile with the small button at the right top of your screen. Together with the new people profile, we also have a new org chart, which looks like this. So at the right-hand side, you can also see the pop-up with the information about the employee, and on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the graphical overview of the org chart. This is how the org charts look in full view. Our recommendation is to enable this on the preview environment so you can get familiar with this feature, but temporarily disable it for now on production environment because there are some shortcomings on this profile and org chart, so to avoid also sudden changes for the employees. But it's recommended also by SAP to enable them both together or disable them both together because the experience should remain as consistent as possible. Next up, we have the latest role-based permissions. Latest role-based permissions is not a new page. It was already available, but now it's the default page. So if you go to manage role-based permissions, you will get this new page. And there are some functionalities added to this page. We have external user types that are now possible to use here. You can also print the permission page. And what's also new is you can display all steps. So in the past version of the latest role-based permissions, you needed to go step by step, but now you can jump from one step to the other. So it's less sequential. It's more convenient to use. What you can also do is now you can complete incomplete role assignments. Previously, you needed to switch back to the legacy page for that, but now you can also do that on the latest version. The next list is also provided with a screenshot, so I will use the screens. It's a bit more visual to explain. The latest role-based permission page now supports compensation permission roles. They are tagged with a little tag compensation, so you can recognize them easily. You can now use 4 people pools to configure your permission group. In the past, you could use only up to 3 people pools, so you now have a little bit more flexibility here. You can also use data blocking now in the latest role-based permission. Now, as a reminder, data blocking is the feature where you can limit historical access to a certain time period. So for instance, you can say employees have access to the history of the address, but only up to 1 year in the past and not before that. So that's now also possible in the latest role-based permission page. Of course, MDF also has permissions, so it's now also supported in this latest role-based permissions. And then my personal favorite in the latest role-based permission page is the comparison between versions. So if you click on the View History link, at the left-hand side, you can get the list of all the different versions. You can check too, and then you can push Compare, and then the system will display the permission role with an indication of what has changed. In red, it's what has been removed between those 2 versions, and in green, what has been added in this new version. And also new is you can choose to see the complete role with the differences, like here, or in the next screenshot, you can see only the differences. So if you want to have a quick overview what has changed, it's very easy now here in the permission role history. And then a quick word about the reporting. One of the most controversial features in the last release was the deprecation of the table reporting and canvas reporting. SAP has listened to your feedback, and they announced that they will reconsider the date. So it's still on the line of deprecation, but they removed the deadline for now. So it will be removed at some point in the future, but for now we don't know exactly when. So you can keep using that. But yeah, of course, we recommend if you create new reports, consider to create them as a story report in the SAP Analytics Cloud. So that was for platform and reporting. Now we go to Employee Central. In Employee Central, we have the quick actions. That's also not completely new, but they are enhanced in this release. So now you can use 8 fields, so it's a little bit more flexible than it used to be. And you can also have more supported use cases, which are listed here. Also interesting to know is that business rules are supported. So if you have business rule on your normal user interface, they will also be included in the quick action. A new page specifically for the manager is the My Teams Positions page, where the manager will get an overview of all the positions assigned to him. You can see the page is divided into 2 sections. The top section will display the positions that have a incumbent, and below there you can see all the positions that are empty, so there someone can get hired. Also, quick actions are supported on the My Teams position. So if you want to give the manager permissions to change or create positions, you can do it via a quick action, and then he can use that in one central place. Next feature is a little bit more technical, the centralized services, but in a nutshell, the centralized services are designed to make sure that your experience is consistent no matter how you do the change. For instance, before centralized services, if you did something via the user interface or via import, it could be that in one scenario business rules were executed and in the other scenario they were not executed, and then the end result would be different depending on how you registered your change. But with centralized services, all the behavior is consistent. And here is a list of all the centralized services that became universal, so you don't have to enable them, they are there for you to use automatically. They also introduced some new centralized services for pension payouts, for instance, and also contingent workers will now be processed with centralized services. Also, for the customers more in the public sector, adding higher duties or temporary assignments can now also be done via centralized services. And as already mentioned, AI is important also for SAP. So they included AI in Employee Central. And in this case, there is a feature that gives you insight for compensation review. So it will check the system, it will gather data, and based upon the result of that gathering, the system will create, upon the click of one button, it will create compensation insight with a summary of what the AI has learned about that person. So the manager can read that text and then can see from, oh, this person earns more or less, or he is due for a promotion because it's been longer in the same position as the colleagues of him, for instance. Seniority calculation, we could do it already via business rules, but now we also have specific objects designed for seniority calculation policies. So that means we have now more capabilities and more flexibility to calculate different seniorities for different populations, actually. And also they added some extra features in the embedded SAC. For instance, it's now possible to report on the planned working time. This is very convenient object if you want to do that, because all the data is there now in one object. So you have the start dates, start hours, etc., all available. So you can create a nice report on the planned working time if you want that. Just use embedded SAC and you're set. And then now I want to give the word to Mélanie.
Thank you. We'll now go into the recruiting highlights. The first one, and probably the biggest one, is the enhancement that SAP has been pushed into the applicant workbench. Last release, our advice was to test it out in preview environments, but not to push it on production because there were some functionalities that were still missing. SAP has now done its best, and everything is almost in the new applicant workbench. This is a visual change, so the functionalities are there, but you will have to test it out before going to production because it's quite a big visual change. We just learned a few days ago that the universal push will be delayed, so it's not coming in the next release, but this will be pushed by SAP and everyone will have to use this new applicant workbench. Some new features that are coming in are, for example, forward as applicant, a new icon for the referred candidates, and you see also the comments, you see the interview results. I will show you in a bit in a video. This is how it looks in a nutshell. You see that the visual is really different. It's a little bit like the horizon theme. And here is a list of the functionalities that are not yet supported in the new applicant workbench. I will show you the video so you can get an insight. So here a candidate is added to a job requisition. You can see all the candidates there. When you click on one, you have the full view on all his activity, the interview results, the ratings that have been given to the candidates, the comments if there are. The assessment package is also visible, and in the applicant history you can see each status that he went through and the comments that were added by the recruiters as well. There are also a new rule scenario in recruiting, because as you already know, we cannot use the basic scenario anymore in the suite of SuccessFactors. So they added quite a few new rule scenarios for recruiting. There are two that we would enlighten this time, the ones concerning the offer letters. The first one is made to help you pre-select the offer template that you would like to use instead of doing it manually. And the second one is with conditional sections. It's made to help reduce the number of different offer letters that you could have in your instance. So for example, if somebody is hired in HQ in the department HR, then we show the conditional sections 1 and 2. And if it's for another department, we could show the sections 3 and 4. So they help to reduce the number of templates that you have and makes it more easier to manage. AI is also coming up in recruiting. This is more generative AI because it's going to create content based on what you already provide it in the system. The first two AI functionalities were already in the system in the last release. So this assisted job descriptions and interview questions. This will help you to create a beautiful text for the job description and also provide other questions for the recruiters to ask the new candidates. The new one is about the skills validation. This is an enhancement in two parts. The first one is concerning only the candidates. So when they go into their profile and they upload their resume, AI is going to read this resume and suggest some skills that are fitted for this candidate. The candidate can then add them to the candidate profile and save this. And the second part is for the recruiter with the skill compatibility portlet in the applicant workbench when you can see which candidate is the best suitable for the job. SAP has made a rule of transparency, so you can see why this candidate is best suitable. You can see how many times this skills was asked in the job description and was written on their resume. And if the candidate has not saved any skills on their candidate profile, AI is going to read the resume directly. And that's it for the recruiting part. So I will give back the word to my colleague, Kristof.
Thank you. Of course, if you recruit people, you need to onboard them as well. So we have onboarding. And what you can now do is you can automatically hire applicants that come from recruiting or onboarding into Employee Central. You know, in the past, you always had to pass by Manage Pending Hires tool, where you could check the data, and then if it's complete, you could send it to Employee Central. What you can now do is you can configure your system that in certain scenarios where you want it, this step Manage Pending Hires is skipped. Of course, the data needs to be correct. And if an onboardee is involved, you never know for 100% sure that it's correctly filled by the onboardee. So what we also have now is a final review step that you can add in your onboarding process. And this step will allow the responsible from the company to review the data provided by the onboardee. And then if it's correct, just simply click continue. And then the applicant or the onboardee can be automatically added into Employee Central without having to go through Manage Pending Hires. If the data is not correct, the reviewer has the possibility to send the form back to the onboardee with a comment, and then of course he can also give a description of what is wrong. So he has here a text field that he can use to inform the onboardee of what kind of issue there is, and then the onboardee can correct it. Also, a big advantage of this way of working is that you don't have to restart the onboarding process. So in the past, if you needed to correct something, you needed to cancel the onboarding process and then start over with a new onboarding process. With this solution, you just can keep in the same process and go back and forth to correct the data and then continue when it's correct. So I think that's a big step forward. What you can now also do in onboarding is that you can use more job relationships. In the past, we could use the manager and the manager of the manager, but if you wanted to use, for instance, the HR business partner, it was very difficult. And now we have a simple list with all the job relations here that you can use to define who should do, for instance, the e-signature step. So if you want the HR business partner to also sign, you can simply select and configure it. You can also use a job relations here to, for instance, send an email to those people. And this is how it looks. You can see here the recipient builder, where you can simply use all the roles involved. And then one of the most visible changes for the onboardee is the new onboarding journey. I will show you a video, and here in the video you will see that there is now one big central place where the onboardee can see all the steps. So here at the left, you can see all the steps. And when you select the step at the right of your screen, you will see the details. The advantage here is that the onboardee now has one big overview instead, in the past, he needed to click on different tiles and then he went to the correct part. But now it's one central place, so the experience is more consistent. As you can see here, also the compliance tasks are included. Of course, if you did not use the compliance forms in your instance, these steps will not be shown. Also, for each step, the status is visible for the onboardee, because of course some steps need to be completed first before you can do the next step. So then you can see that as an onboardee. So I think for the onboardee, this is probably the biggest step forward in this release. That was a click too much. Sorry, small technical issue. I'm looking for my slides. Can you see the next slide now? Okay, trying to solve this. Voila. Hopefully you can now see the manager and start dates slide. So this is also new. When you changed those dates or manager in the past, there was an issue that the system would decide to restart the process if the system deemed it necessary. What you now have is that you can choose. So if you want to change something, you can choose here with proceed or cancel. If you proceed, all your changes are okay. The slides are not very well visible, I get here. Not yet okay, so let's try again. Like this, and then like that, and hopefully now you can see the slides. Okay, that's one issue solved. So as I was saying, now you have the option to choose if you want to start back with the process, and if you want, let me recapture. If you change something, you can choose. If you want your changes to be reflected in all the completed steps, then you need to restart the process. But if you want the changes only to reflect in the new steps, then you can simply continue with the process. So now you have the option, while in the past the system would decide to simply restart the process. Also new is the mass completion for new hire activity tasks. If you have managers that receive a lot of new employees in their team, it could be a hassle to add, for instance, 5 times the same welcome message. So what you can now do is you can simply select those 5 onboardees, and then you can add the welcome message at once for all 5 employees. And this you can do for all tasks. Only exception here is the custom tasks. And then we switch back to Mélanie.
Thank you. Let's deep dive into goals and performance. Biggest announcement for now is the latest goal management that is now opt-out. You have seen it on the preview data center. Latest goal management is now directly in the system. You can still decide to opt out by doing a job in the upgrade center, but you have only 30 days. So for the preview data center, it's time to revert back now if you want it. We have just did a new communication because SAP has also released that this is not going to be pushed into production environment. So if you want to revert back, do it in preview, but if you don't have the latest goal management enabled in your production environment, this is not going to be pushed. It's not going to be pushed into production. So you can still decide on your own if you want to go to the latest goal management to do the upgrade center job by yourself. Of course, push to the new latest goal management means also deprecation of the legacy goal management. As I've just said, you have a 30 days window to revert it back on previous environment, and if not done, then the latest goal management will stay there on all previous environments. The SAP also redesigned the goal creation options. The functionality remains exactly the same, but the visual has changed. As you can see, it's a bit bigger, a bit clearer. And with the goal creation comes also AI. AI can now help you generate a new goal. If you provide a brief description in the text box and click on generate, then it's going to create a new goal for you directly. Newest addition is the goal weight display. This was not visible in the last release in the latest goal management. It's now in the system. When you see the goal plan, you can see all the percentage, the weight of each goal, and it's displayed directly on the screen. The latest My Page form is also pushed and also enabled by default. So if you go to My Forms, this is the screen that you will get. You can still opt out, but as usual, this will be universally pushed also in the next release or the one thereafter. There is a new tile on the homepage. For those of you who uses feedback, you can now request the feedback and directly give the feedback from the homepage by simply clicking on the tile that appears on your screen and reply directly in there. And SAP also provided new filters for the calibration session to help you as customers to better filter out the employees that you want to have in your calibration. There are the 4 filters as usual, and then 2 custom ones that you can also use. That was it for goals and performance, but I will continue with our last topic, learning. The new learning experience, of course. When you're logging into SuccessFactors Learning, you will have a little info button that you can click on, and then you have a welcome message by SAP simply explaining a little bit what you see and how it looks, so you can dive into it a little bit easier. There is a flexible rollout for new integrated learning experience. You can opt out completely and then still be on the legacy page. You can opt in to see both, and then you will have a toggle option on the upper right of the screen to juggle between the legacy and the new integrated learning experience. And you can opt in completely and see only the legacy, the new experience. A lot of new configuration are also provided by SAP. You have a configurable banner. I will go a little bit further on this topic later. You can easily access your legacy page, your custom pages with the drop-down button that you can see here on the left. There are new custom cards. I will also go revert back to it in a little bit. You can now see the admin recommendation that were not there before in the section suggested to me. You can also, you have this toggle just so you can switch between the legacy experience and the new integrated experience, and of course a customizable welcome message. So as I was saying, you can now configure new banners. This you can configure up to 45, but the employees will see up to 5. So you will have to decide, such as the tiles on the homepage, which employee gets to see which banner. So they can see up to 5 in a carousel image, but you are really free to upload whatever pictures you want to, and also text panels and buttons if you want to insert a link to another side of the site. Custom cards are also now available. You can build up to 100 of them, but employees can see only 20 of them. So as I just said, for the banner, you need to select which employee should see which cards. Some new enhancement in the mobile app as well. You can see your learning history. So the page learning history is now visible, and you can also directly book your calendar if you have a learning course coming up. Deprecation of the legacy learning homepage. If they are trying to push the new integrated experience, of course, they are going to be deprecated the legacy one. This is now foreseen for next year, day to day, because we are on the basic stage. The latest version of learning history is now available generally, so you cannot switch back to the legacy for the learning history page. This is how it looks like. Again, this is not a change in process, it's only a visual change. A little bit of explanation on the two sections, required learning and important learning. So the required learning is, of course, the mandatory learning that your employees have to follow. And the important learning section is not required, but it's based also on the social collaboration. For example, if a colleague wants to send a new learning course to another one, or if the manager wants to send a learning course to his employees. Nice info as well. You can now send emails to remind of a learning without a due date. In the past, we had only emails to push when there are a due date on the learning course. Now, without a due date, it's also possible to say, hey, you have a learning course there, please go and follow it. And that was it for all highlights of this SuccessFactors release. We wanted just to remind you that we have also another webinar coming up on Concur. So if you want to subscribe, please do, and we'll be there to guide you to the Concur environment as well. We will now go to the Q&A part.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. The question is, we mentioned the new people profile and the new org chart. It's recommended to activate it together. And the question is, if you don't follow the recommendation, what will happen? Yeah, I didn't try it myself yet, but my guess is that it will work, but the experience will be different. You will have, of course, the legacy people profile, for instance, but on the org chart, you will see the same information, but then displayed in the new way. So it will be confusing, I think, for the users, because it's the same information, but displayed in a very different way of working. So people need to familiarize them with the new way, but will also be confronted with the old way. So yeah, unless you have a very specific reason to try that, I would go with the recommendation.
Are there already known issues from other clients? Deprecation of the basic rule scenario. Not that I'm aware of, because SAP has also made it clear in all communications that we cannot build new basic rule scenario, but the ones that already exist in your system are not being touched. They are still working. They are still triggered. So for now, don't worry, don't panic. They are still indeed working in the system. What you can already do if you want to avoid maybe issues in the future is check with the tool that SAP provides to change the scenario, which is quite easy to do.
Yep.
If there are no more questions, I think that sums it up. Thank you all for joining and for watching, and we will see you hopefully in the next time.